Ever feel like you're stuck? Like you know you need to make a change, but you just can't seem to get unstuck.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, today we're going to deep dive into a framework that can help us break free.
Ooh, I like that. Break free.
We're talking about the Stages of Change model,
Okay.
and we're using Pasted Text by Evan L. Messman as our guide.
Sounds good.
But here's the twist. This model isn't just for like personal growth, you know. It applies to businesses and leadership too.
Oh, interesting.
So if you're looking to shake things up, any area of your life really, this one's for you.
I think a lot of people think of change as like this overnight thing, but really it's a lot more, well, it's more of a process, you know, it's more of a journey and it has different stages. And if you can understand those stages, it can really help you.
So to help us, let's use the example of Sarah, the CEO, from the text. She's sort of our case study.
Okay, yeah. So picture Sarah.
Okay.
Her business, it's doing all right, but she's exhausted, you know, long hours, her relationships are strained, her health, it's not great.
And she's in total denial, isn't she?
Oh, yeah.
The text says she's too focused on the next deal to see what's really going on.
Classic.
Ugh, I've so been there. It's like you stay busy so you don't have to face reality.
It really is, and it's the pre-contemplation stage. And it's more common than you'd think, especially for those go-getter types.
Right.
They're so focused on that next goal that they don't see the warning signs.
The fatigue, the stress.
Exactly. The relationships that are falling apart, it all just fades into the background.
So how do we get from not seeing the problem to actually admitting we need to change? Like, what gets someone like Sarah out of that denial?
Well, at some point, Sarah's body is probably sending her all kinds of signals, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The burnout, you can't ignore it forever. Maybe she's missing out on family stuff or her relationships are really suffering.
It's like those consequences get too big to ignore.
Yeah, she's got to face the music.
Okay.
That's when she shifts into the contemplation stage.
Okay.
So now she knows something has to change,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not doing anything about it yet.
Right.
And this is where a lot of people get stuck.
Why is that, though? Why is it so hard to go from thinking about it to actually, you know, doing something?
Fear, doubt. It's that I know what I need to do, but all those what ifs start popping up, you know, what if I fail? What if it's too hard? What if I just make everything worse?
This is so relatable, I think, for our listeners. They are all about self-improvement. But I bet a lot of them struggle with this, too. It's like you're standing at the edge of a diving board. You know you need to jump, but
you freeze up.
Yeah.
And think about what that looks like in the business world. You know, a company realizes, okay, we need a new strategy if we want to keep up.
Right.
But they hesitate. They drag their feet.
Because they're afraid.
Yeah. They don't know what'll happen, you know?
It could go wrong.
Exactly.
So how do we overcome that fear, both personally and professionally? How do we take that leap?
That's where the next stage comes in.
Yeah.
Preparation. This is where you go from thinking about it to actually doing something, even if it's just little things at first.
Okay.
You start building momentum.
Okay, so what does that look like for Sarah? What's she actually doing in this preparation stage?
Well, remember, she's burned out.
Right.
She's not taking care of herself. So maybe she starts small. Maybe she goes to the doctor finally. Or, you know, she starts looking into fitness classes. Or maybe she carves out some time for stuff she enjoys, things she's been putting off.
These seem like tiny steps. Are they really that important?
Oh, they're huge. It's the difference between just watching your life happen and actually taking control, you know? She's not just thinking about change anymore. She's preparing for it. And that mindset shift, that's key.
Okay.
It's like she's packing her bags for a trip.
I like that.
Yeah.
And what about for leaders and businesses? What's the preparation stage look like for them?
It's strategic planning time. Let's say a company knows they need to get on board with this new technology just to stay afloat. Preparation means they're doing their research, they're figuring out the risks and the benefits.
Right.
They're talking to the experts, they're getting their resources lined up, they're getting ready for action.
That makes sense. It's like laying the groundwork, whether it's for personal growth or like big changes in a company.
Yeah.
So Sarah's prepped. She's packed her bags. What happens next?
Now we go from planning to actually doing it. This is the action stage. This is where it all comes together. So Sarah, she's not just thinking about going to the gym, she's actually going. She's not just thinking about eating healthy, she's actually doing it. She's working with her coach, she's setting boundaries, and she's putting her well-being first.
Okay, but what about her work? Is it all going downhill because she's not just focused on the next deal all the time?
Actually, it's the opposite. The text says her business is booming.
Really?
Yeah. By taking care of herself, she's got more energy, she's more focused.
Okay.
She can handle all the tough stuff. And that makes her a better leader.
Wow. So taking care of herself actually made her better at work.
Exactly. And that's a big takeaway for everyone. Taking care of yourself, it's not selfish.
Right.
It's crucial to being successful in everything you do. If you're running on empty, you can't be your best.
So it's not just about personal growth, it's about how you approach, well, everything.
Absolutely. And in business, this is where you walk the walk. You don't just talk about new ideas, you make them happen. You got to be bold and see what happens.
So Sarah's got it all figured out then, right? Happy ending. Is that the last stage?
Not quite.
Oh, no.
Remember, change is a process.
Okay.
It's not a destination. And there's one more stage we need to talk about. Relapse.
Right, because life happens.
Exactly.
Work gets crazy, stress piles up, you slip back into old habits. So what happens to Sarah? Does she completely fall apart? Does she go all the way back to square one?
Yeah, she hits a bump in the road for sure. The text says that work gets crazy again, and some of those old habits start creeping back in. Maybe she starts skipping the gym or working late again. But, and this is crucial, relapse, it's not failure.
Okay.
It's feedback.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, instead of seeing it as a reason to quit, we can use it as information. We can learn from it and adjust. That's where a growth mindset comes in.
So many people are terrified of setbacks, you know? They see it as a sign that they should just give up.
Right, but what if we saw it as a chance to learn and get better? It changes everything.
But how does this relapses feedback idea work for leaders? Do they have to be perfect all the time? What happens when they mess up?
Well, imagine a leader who thinks that any little setback means they're a failure. That's crippling, you know?
Right.
They need to learn from it, just like Sarah. Ask themselves, okay, what can we learn from this? How do we adapt? How do we come back stronger?
That makes sense. So we've got these 5 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and relapse. How does this all fit together for our listeners? Where do they fit in?
That's a great question, and it brings us to this crucial point from the text. Stalled with one, you're stalled with all. This is really the key to understanding how everything in our lives is connected.
So you're saying that if one part of our life is a mess, it affects everything else.
Exactly. Remember how Sarah was at the beginning?
Yeah.
Her health was bad, and it wasn't just a personal problem. It was hurting her work, her relationships, everything. It created this ripple effect of negativity.
So it's like dominoes. One falls and they all go down.
That's a good way to put it.
This is kind of scary, but also really makes you think. It's like you can't just ignore one part of your life and hope for the best.
Absolutely. But here's the good news. If you can get some momentum going in one area, it can have a positive ripple effect too.
Oh, okay.
It can lift up everything else in your life.
So wait, you're telling me if I start getting enough sleep, it could actually make me a better leader.
Think about it. Better sleep, more energy, better focus.
Right.
You're in better mood. You can handle stress better. All those things are essential for a good leader.
This is amazing. It's like a chain reaction, but in a good way.
Exactly. It's not about finding this perfect balance. It's about recognizing that everything's connected. And if you make progress in one area, it can help you make progress everywhere else.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
It's not just about self-help. It's about a whole new way of thinking about life and leadership.
Exactly. That's the beauty of this model. It gives you a way to see where you are now, where you want to be, and how to get there.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But what about when we mess up? You know, when we relapse, does that mean we're back to square one, stalled with everything all over again?
Not necessarily. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. You're going to have setbacks. It's inevitable, but they don't have to derail you. So instead of beating yourself up over it, see it as a chance to learn and adjust your plan. And this goes for businesses and leaders too.
Even in those high-pressure situations where, like, failure is not an option.
Especially in those situations. Imagine a leader who sees any setback as a personal defeat.
Right.
That's a recipe for disaster. They need to embrace the learning opportunity like Sarah did. They need to ask, what can we learn from this? How do we change our strategy? How do we come back stronger?
So it's about shifting from being afraid of failure to being curious about what you can learn from it. It's like instead of hitting a dead end, you take a detour that might actually lead you somewhere better.
I like that, a detour.